please welcome to the stage the painters.
Who amongst you is an artist? Raise your hand. Raise your hand high if you are an artist. You should all be raising your hand. You are all artists. However, there are a few braver than the rest, and I cannot quite see them, but please shout your name out loud and proud if you are an artist.
John.
What? I heard a John. John, please, can you come up on stage if you like? John, would you like to?
Nice to meet you.
Would you like to paint something for us tonight?
I can't paint.
You can.
You said
everyone can paint.
Okay, I can.
Everyone has the ability.
Sure, I'd love to paint something.
John.
Yes.
Let me help give you some confidence in your painting abilities.
Thank you.
If we put this on like you are a little child, put no wrong way. This one, yes. John, what is your last name?
Are you stealing my identity?
No.
Gigrich?
Gigrich?
Yes. C.
Gigrich. I am from Germany. Is this correct?
That is right.
Okay. What country do you wish you were born in?
Ireland.
Ireland, yes, very good. They have lots of people there.
No.
And which year do you think your spirit was born in?
1856.
1856. Okay, yes, and now I will take you back to your painting station and you will paint a painting inspired by our set tonight. Do you think you can do that?
Yes,
I
absolutely.
believe you can. Can he do it?
Rubik's Cube! Rubik's Cube! A Rubik's Cube! A Rubik's Cube!
We see a Rubik's Cube. It's on that desk that's clearly of a young boy over here.
It's
There-
extremely messy. Papers everywhere.
There is a photo on the desk of the boy in a football uniform with a bat over his shoulder.
There's also a few photos above his desk of the boy in several different sporting uniforms. There's badminton over here. There's lacrosse over here. Right here you have another badminton, but like from a different country.
In each of these photos, he has a bat over his shoulder.
His father is conspicuously absent.
In front of each photo is a tiny little miniature that he painted himself of himself, holding the bat like this.
There's a picture right here of him with his mother, and then like clearly a space where his dad should be.
There is, next to the photos on the shelf, there is a series of trophies. They're each bronzed representations of various sports. There's a bronzed football, there's a bronzed badminton, mallet, and then at the very end, there is a bronzed Rubik's Cube. The Rubik's Cube on the desk is completely solved, except that one's twisted. So it's just one away.
There is a blueprint that says what a Rubik's Cube's supposed to look like.
There's a blueprint next to it says, not what a Rubik's Cube's supposed to look like.
There's a laptop open with a search engine typed into Google and it says Rubik's Cube.
If you were to search the word dad, a lot of search results would come up from recent search results.
When he searches dad, it says, "Did you mean mom?"
When he says, no, I meant dad, it says, did you mean Rubik's Cube?
This Rubik's Cube was his father's.
The Rubik's Cube is old. It's painted with lead paint, and it's flaking off in parts.
In the corner of his room right here, there is a little boy holding a bat over his shoulder.
The bat is old. It's painted with lead paint that is chipping.
Under the bed, there is a card shoved deep in the back from the birthday where he got the Rubik's Cube, and it says, "Hope you enjoy. Love, Mom."
There's a ceiling fan spinning from the top of the ceiling, interrupting the only one light in the room.
The one light shines down onto the desk, perfectly situated so that the center of the light is right on the Rubik's Cube.
There are baseballs just scattered all over the floor, and they've all only been hit once.
The baseballs are all signed, Mom.
Upstairs, we can hear footsteps.
The floorboards are very old. They were made with lead paint, so you can hear the footsteps very well.
The boy is wearing an old-timey baseball uniform with the pants that just go to here and the long socks that cover the rest.
On the back of his uniform, it has his last name, but it's not his jersey.
It's his mom's.
As the footsteps grow louder, small, tiny cracks begin forming in the walls of the room below.
The boy steps towards the desk into the light. He sees that the Rubik's Cube is desk level, almost as if on a tee.
The little boy raises the bat in a striking motion, but not one that you would use to actually hit a baseball.
The uniform has not moved in a long time, and it creaks and dust flies off of it as he moves his arms.
The boy winds up for the swing.
A gentle tear falls.
He swings, and the moment that the bat hits the Rubik's Cube, the bat shatters.
The Rubik's Cube remains unsolved.
The boy looks on, and the single tear that was falling down his face goes further and drips from his chin.
Into a puddle where there's been other tears from previous attempts.
The tears are old, they're made of lead, and they're rusted.
We go into into the puddle where there is a culture of germs and bugs that are smaller, but they're better than germs.
They're beautiful amoebas, and inside they have sparkling little granules that move along inside of them.
But there's also a lot of ugly amoeba.
Even the pretty sparkly amoebas that are being corrupted by the no-good bugs and bacteria that's around them.
We see two distinct sets of amoebas, a sparkling amoeba on one side and a dirty, filthy amoeba on the other side, and in between them, tracks.
They're deer tracks. Amoeba deer.
You can tell that even though one amoeba is bad and one amoeba is sparkly and good, that these two amoeba had asexual reproduction from the same first cell. Their DNA is identical, is what I'm saying.
They're twins!
It's just a matter of circumstances.
Really, any of them could have been good or bad at any moment, okay? It's the environment that created one to be bad and one to be good.
It's like one is given more advantages in society than the other one.
You really can't blame him. He didn't do anything wrong, he just lived.
He just grew up around a culture of crime!
Yet at the same time, that's not to devalue the good choices that the good amoeba made.
But you still had everything, good amoeba.
All of this is said in their glances at each other.
Across the amoeba deer tracks.
The good amoeba is holding a lacrosse stick.
The bad amoeba is holding a baseball bat with a nail in it.
Rusty.
It's a nail that somehow has the pointy end sticking out of it. Like how would you do that?
Through the bat.
No, that's not how it worked though.
The head of the nail is definitely inside the bat.
Yes, we follow the deer track into an amoeba forest.
There's like deer, but they just look like normal deer. They don't look like amoeba deer. They're just like normal deer, but small enough to fit in the teardrop.
It's like if you were looking through a microscope and you saw an amoeba here and it's all black and white, and then all of a sudden there was a full-colored deer. But two-dimensional.
The trees in the forest have all round edges like a child's painting.
Tears have washed away parts of the trees, and they are dripping down into the grass below. The rusty grass below.
The deer are bending their necks down and licking up the dripping trees.
The deer are pretty much licking anything because since this is a teardrop, everything's pretty salty and they're into it.
The deer don't have to bend down too far because their necks extend as far as they need to go down to the ground. They barely are hunched over.
Their tongues are very eroded and calloused and full of sores from licking lots of different things.
But they keep licking.
Because it's salty.
They might go see a doctor about it if it keeps staying that way.
One deer looks up from the licking. He looks around and he wonders, where is this coming from? Why am I here?
And all of a sudden, a bright light from above shines on the entire situation. They look up and they can't see it, but an eye blinks down.
Light is reflected through the water like prisms, rainbows everywhere, shooting in every direction.
One of the deer gets a prism right through the skull and it comes out the other side.
The deer shatters into a million pieces. What seems like an innocent research project to this child that's looking through this microscope is actually a devastating apocalypse on the teardrop.
The eye is just a black socket. It doesn't have a pupil even. Or it is one giant pupil. Depends how you look at it.
The other deer come and lick the shattered remains of this deer because everything's pretty salty. It doesn't really matter.
More and more debris starts falling as these deer shatter, and the one deer who was looking up gets an idea.
This deer begins to climb.
with its neck. Its neck starts extending and extending up towards the heavens, defying everything.
The eye stares at the deer, daring the deer to blink first.
This deer is looking into the eye of its god.
A boy sits at a desk and he has a microscope, and as he looks at it, he gets confused because one of the little things in there is starting to get bigger.
On the desk are multiple photos of this little boy in various scientific outfits. There's one of him as a geologist with a pickaxe. There's one of him with a scientist with a couple of Bunsen beakers.
And there's two very offensive ones where he's dressed like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Stephen Hawking. He shouldn't have.
In front of each one are little miniature figurines of him doing the same thing.
And in each photo, his dad is conspicuously way too there. Way too there.
His dad just has his arm around him in every single photo. He's like, ah.
In a few pictures, he's just straight up standing in front of his son.
His dad is standing behind him.
There's a blueprint here that says this is what a deer is supposed to look like.
There's an award on the wall behind him from a science fair, and it says that the name of the project is Why My Dad Loves So Much.
His dad is literally wearing his Nobel Prize around his neck and has the medal right here.
On the medal, you can see that he's clearly painted a picture of his son on it.
And written on it says, "This should be you someday."
Up from the slide, we can now see the deer's neck slowly emerging from the petri dish.
And as it gets closer and closer to the surface, it actually grows exponentially and starts shooting faster and faster. And just like the prism that shot through his dear friend's bodies, the deer head shoots through the boy's eye.
And the boy shatters.
The pictures against the wall are smashed and fall to the floor.
The father takes a step back.
He's shocked.
Needless to say,
He bends down and looks at the remains, the shattered remains of his son, his one guiding light in life.
if there was anyone in this room to say it to, he would say, I can rebuild him. I can make him stronger,
Better, faster,
more productive.
More loving.
skinnier,
Hotter.
More gumption.
Blue eyes, less prone to shattering.
Shovel the driveway every once in a while.
I can give him laser fingers.
Calls us fucking mother sometimes, she worries.
The man exits the room, and we follow him down a long hallway. As he goes down this hallway, the lights get dimmer and dimmer and dimmer until it is only lit by candles along the hallway.
He is walking down hallways of stone that are wet with moss, and it would appear that he is descending, but he's actually going upwards into the house.
The hallways are old, older than this man could possibly ever be, older than humans could possibly ever be.
They're all painted with lead paint.
It stinks just a little, but he doesn't mind.
It's because it stinks just like his own BO, which he's super into.
We see him approach the end of the hallway where there's a door, an ancient, heavy door, set with many unknowable symbols.
The man reaches out and touches the one that looks exactly like his hand.
It's the wrong one.
So he reaches out and touches the one that looks exactly like his son's hand.
It's the wrong one. He reaches out and touches the one that looks like his mother's hand. It's also the wrong one.
He
There's
just
one.
opens the door, but there's also a knob.
And he enters a laboratory, the most modern laboratory that one could ever conceive of. More modern than the ancient hallway. It's like a dichotomy thing where the hallway was really old and the laboratory is really modern.
There's a centrifuge here, already spinning.
There's 16 different computer screens set up at random around the room.
There are so many blinking lights. There are blinking lights everywhere.
There is a face on a screen, and it has just a smiley face, but it's a computer named Mother, and Mother has a period after every letter.
Appearing on the bottom of the computer screen is just words. Hello, Sam. I thought you would be back.
There is, inside a vacuum-sealed glass tube, a Rubik's Cube that hasn't quite been solved.
Draped underneath the Rubik's Cube are clothes that are just lined below the Rubik's Cube at the head of a shirt.
At the head of the shirt, there is a watermelon painted with a face.
It's the face of a woman. Maybe.
The features are fairly androgynous at this point.
His first thought was, oh, that's a woman, but then he thought about it a little more and he was like, I don't know.
He thought maybe it might be sexist to just assume that that was a woman.
The
without
watermelon
asking
will
first.
figure out later in life which it prefers.
As he thinks about this, 500 years pass.
The lights keep blinking.
The entire time he's just been staring.
And
Standing
finally, the lights stop blinking. And they go out. And then they go on.
They blink
But
a
it wasn't
final time.
right. It was a very
And then they
final
blink
blink.
another final time.
Then just to be clear, it blinked one more time. There we go. He reaches out to the Rubik's Cube in the centrifuge.
And grabs it, stopping it spinning.
The clothes that underneath the head of the shirt, below the watermelon with androgynous features, begin to slowly inflate.
The Rubik's Cube is warm, and the heat coming from it is going through his arm into his whole body, filling him with a warmth he's never felt before.
The face on the watermelon blinks.
The man takes the Rubik's Cube and presents it to the watermelon person.
The watermelon's guts spill out the bottom and form a hand, and it raises its fruity, rotten hand.
Dripping with seeds and mucus. The watermelon shoots out more seeds and mucus into the other hand, and it raises up and gives a thumbs up.
Some really nasty bug begins scurrying out into the dungeon, licking the nasty, acrid watermelon juices.
The watermelon hand grasps the Rubik's Cube.
The end that's not quite finished spinning.
And with one hand, spins the Rubik's Cube so that it is solved.
The warmth flows from the man through the Rubik's Cube into the watermelon creature.
The man is growing pale, gray.
Old, his hair, and you can see it turn gray and fall out.
He becomes bald.
You can see the woman get less mucusy and seedy and more like a human would look.
Oh, and she is a woman, turns out.
We see the man's arms break and then reform and then break again.
They flake off like rusty old lead paint.
Mother is worried.
The skin becomes more solid, and the watermelon starts growing long, luscious hair, and looks down at this old, disfigured creature that has given her life and energy.
And she feels pity on this clearly decrepit and dying old man. She looks down at the shell of her watermelon, and she picks it up. It's quite sharp.
And also
it's quite
greasy
slippery,
and
apparently.
slippery.
Yes, very slippery. Finally, she gets a hold of it.
Using the sharp edge, she cuts the old man's throat.
Mother is freaking the fuck out. The smiley face is just a screaming emoji.
The woman puts what remains of the watermelon on her head.
She will never forget where she came from.
It slips off.
Mucus, seeds, and now blood drip down her face.
The lights flick out again. And back on.
She exits the door of the laboratory and back down the corridor
She knows all the right buttons on the door to push.
A knob.
On the other side, she travels down the old, dark stone hallway.
Descending into the house.
Into the more modern hallways of the house, and back to the young scientist boy's room.
Where there's just like a giant deer head just sticking out of a petri dish. It's actually bigger than the petri dish now. It's like a normal-sized deer head.
The deer is shocked.
The woman is not. She looks into the eyes of the deer and she knows that this is the one she needs to speak to.
She opens her mouth to speak.
Listen.
She says. What she would, yeah, she says.
Out comes the most beautiful song. She begins singing to the deer head her innermost feelings.
You got what I need.
'Cause you say
I'm just a friend.
You say I'm just a friend. Oh, baby, you got what I need. 'Cause you say he's just a friend. You say he's just a friend.
Let's start making out. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, the painters.
Thank you. Thank you. John, if you would bring your painting forward, we would like to see what we and you have created together, if this is at all possible. John, oh yes, thank you. Oh, beautiful. Yes.
The man says he is not a painter, but his genius is quite evident.
We can see that he is a masterful painter. And real quick, before we go, we need a title for this painting. What is this painting called? Amoeba, very like, duh. Amoeba. Oh, thank you. Everybody, please welcome to the stage the bearded man.